You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to episode 163. You believe that? 163 episodes of your beloved On Purpose Podcast. And I say beloved because I truly believe we are loved by people all around the world, by an amazing community, and by ourselves. And I think that's a huge thing. I've talked about self-love on other episodes, but when we look in the mirror, we're proud of this community we've built, not I, but we. We're proud of this community that continues to show up and serve others, and that brings stories and topics of hope and inspiration and perspective to the world each and every week. And I want to thank our Patreon contributors for their financial generosity, which allows us to continue to grow this podcast. There are no ads. You've never heard an ad on this show. There's no sponsors. We are like the old PBS of podcasts in that we grow through listener donations and sponsorships, and for that we're eternally grateful. And today, episode 163, I want to talk about the why of the On Purpose Podcast. As I was going back through all the episodes and just looking, I don't know that I ever shared with you why I created this podcast, why it's become such a labor of love and a passion project, if you will, for me, and why I go out of my way to make sure I schedule the time and the space to creatively grow this and put energy towards sharing stories of purpose with the world. And humbly, when we began, it was very small. Downloads in less than 25 per episode was not uncommon. And there are many times that we would think, is it worth it? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the energy? Is it worth the financial strain, if you will, to continue to produce and to create if only 25 people listen? Sometimes it was 10. Is it only worth if only 10 people listen? And one thing that I always came back to is, if that number 10 was people in front of me, and I could see their 10 faces, and I could learn a little more about their stories, and why the On Purpose Podcast was what they chose to listen to, would I have any second thoughts or doubts of the importance of continuing forward? No way, I wouldn't, right? I would look them in the eye. I'd probably have tears in my eyes. We might share a cry. We'd share a hug. We'd be inspired. We'd move forward because I had met those 10 people. But so many times in today's world, everything's metrics based and everything's about followers and numbers here and numbers there, that we forget behind each and every number is a person with a story, with highs and lows, pains and triumphs. And one of our episodes, one of our stories, may reach them at the very time they need it most. So why do I have the On Purpose Podcast? Because I'm not particularly talented. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm not very good at a lot of things. I'm very humble in most aspects of my life. But if there's a talent I have, or I would say two, if there's two things I'm really, really good at. One, I believe in myself, almost to a fault at times. And two, I'm hypersensitive to the goodness of people around me. I pay a lot of attention to the greatness of the quote average unquote person in my life. for my life wouldn't even be where it is today without the influence of what we'd say average people. If you read my book, if you haven't, jump on Amazon and get it, Extraordinary People in Ordinary Places. The whole premise is about the extraordinary people that show up in our life through ordinary means. As a young teen, angry, rebellious, fighting back against all the world, there was a referee at the local youth center at Andrews Air Force Base named Bruce, that took an interest in me, spent time with me, and ultimately put my path on a whole different life. Put my life on a whole different path. Sorry, I said that backwards. And why? Why did he take time for me? He had nothing to gain. I was a pain in the ass. I was angry. I was really good at being angry. I was really good at being mean. I was really good at saying mean, hurtful things and doing mean things to people. But he saw who I could become, not what I was. And he was a volunteer referee, an average person that would be easy to dismiss. And for him, I was a troubled kid. It'd be super easy to write me off as a lost cause, as someone that's going to be a problem on a drain on the system, instead of seeing, wait a second, there's something in him. So that's why I have the On Purpose podcast, because somebody took time out of their life to see something in me, and I want to share that story. Because it may be your story that you don't see in yourself that inspires somebody else to get up and make the changes necessary in their life, to continue forward, to maybe see that there's hope for another day and not in their life too soon. I've been blessed to have many great people cross my path in life. But I also believe they're crossing your path in life, and sometimes we're not paying attention. We're looking too much to celebrities and influencers and this important person and that important person to realize the greatness of the person right next to us. The greatness of a person like Mark Neal, Mr. Beats, Nayeli and Tanner. We're missing all the learning that could be taking place if we just stop and invest in the people around us. And then we devalue ourselves. I am no celebrity. I have no big following. I'm not an influencer of any kind. Yet I know, I believe the stories I tell and the people I meet and facilitate their storytelling, that means something to the world. Because I'm not waiting for somebody else to tell me it's important. I know it's important. Because I know that it helped me in my life, and facilitating the storytelling can help somebody else in their life. So I challenge you, next week's episode, Love and Shenanigans. One of the things I loved about them, you'll get to hear from them, it's amazing. When she emailed me, she said that she's a nobody. And I love that, right? Like, I am a nobody. I'm a nobody to everybody in the world, but I'm definitely a somebody to somebody. And I don't need a check mark next to my name. I don't need celebrity status. I don't need fancy cars and big bankrolls and the biggest house to know that I matter and that I'm somebody. That's why I do the On Purpose podcast, because you all matter. You're all somebody. Your stories are all worth being told. If only you have the courage to tell them and to live within your story and to share your story. Because for every story we diminish, that we don't share, there's somebody out in the world that can never hear it, and it might have been what they needed most right at that time. So why does an average guy like me, with minimal talents on many levels, have a podcast that's been going over 3 years and 163 episodes? One, because I believe in me. And 2, I believe that our stories worth sharing are going to help somebody somewhere. Whether it's 10 people or 10,000 people. And they're all worth sharing. So thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. We can't do this podcast without you, and I wouldn't want to do it without you. It would be boring for me to sit and just talk to myself all the time. So I love having the guests. I love the short episodes like this where we get to kind of just concise and hit you with some knowledge and have you go out for the week and really think about it. Are you shying from your story? Or are you stepping up and sharing it? And if you shy away from it, you don't tell it, and you hold it to yourself, who can't hear it? And if people have invested in you and shared their stories with you and it's helped change your life, have you said thanks? Because one of the things that still bugs me to this day is Bruce, who I know. I wrote about him in my book, Changed My Life. I think I was 11 or 12 when I was a complete idiot. But he didn't let me be an idiot. He pulled me forward. And to this day, I never said thanks. I don't know his last name. Why? Because I was selfish and I didn't care. It wasn't until many years later I saw the impact of his selflessness. So if you're at a place in life where people have helped you and pushed you forward and helped you discover your gifts and reminded you who you could be, not who you were, maybe say thanks before it's too late. Have an awesome week, everybody. I'll see you next week. And as always, keep living life with more purpose. Thank you so much. And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.